Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This partial U-turn on the dreadful family farm tax is partially welcomed by farmers in Boston and Skegness. But where is the Chancellor to come and admit the error of her ways? And what I would say is that jobs have been lost, investment has been slashed, and tragically, Madam Deputy Speaker, lives have been lost by this grief tax. So will the Minister, at the third time of asking, apologise to the farming community?
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As the Minister with responsibility for tax, I'm here answering questions about tax, and I'm happy to continue to do so. The change that the government has come forward with, that was announced last month, that we will be legislating for in the finance bill, does increase the threshold from 1 to 2.5 million because we have listened to farmers and their representatives, and because we have listened to family businesses too. Madam Deputy Speaker, we think that is the right thing to do, and we think it strikes the right balance.
Dame Nia Griffiths.
To ask the Chancellor of the Exchequer if she will make a statement on the changes to agricultural property relief and business property relief.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Shadow Secretary of State for asking this question. Happy New Year to her and to all members in the House. Mr Speaker, the reforms that were announced in December go further to protect more farms and businesses while maintaining the core principle that more valuable agricultural and business assets should not receive unlimited relief. The allowance for 100% rate of relief on agricultural property relief and business property relief will be increased from 1 million to 2.5 million when it is introduced in April, Mr Speaker. This means a couple will now be able to pass on up to 5 million of agricultural business assets tax-free between them, on top of the existing allowances such as the nil rate band. Taken together with the reform that was announced at the recent budget, widows and widowers will also benefit from up to 2.5 million of their spouse's allowance, even if their spouse passed away many years ago. Our changes further reduce the number of estates forecast to pay more inheritance tax, and they further reduce the liability for many of the remaining estates. Compared to Budget 2025, the number of estates claiming APR, including those also claiming BPR, that are affected by the reforms in the coming tax year, is expected to halve from what would have been 375 to just 185 estates. That means around 85% of estates claiming agricultural property relief in 26-27 are forecast to pay no more inheritance tax on their estates under these changes. The Government, Mr Speaker, has announced these changes after listening carefully to feedback from the farming community and family businesses, and I'm pleased that the National Farmers Union and others have welcomed these changes. Even after these reforms, the Government expects to raise around 300 million in 2029-30 from our changes to these tax reliefs. On this side, we are making the fair and responsible choices to support the farming community, with a record 11.8 billion investing in sustainable farming and food production over this Parliament, and to modernise our tax system for the future.
Victoria Atkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, for granting this first urgent question of 2026. And what a way to open the new year with yet another government U-turn. But where is the Chancellor of the Exchequer? This is her tax, her U-turn, and she should explain why she didn't announce this at the budget. Because over the past 14 months, farmers, rural communities and the Conservatives have campaigned relentlessly in and out of Westminster against these vindictive taxes. This U-turn acknowledges what farmers have been telling the government from day one. Ministers have got their maths badly wrong, and many more farms and family businesses will be broken up as a result of Labour's higher taxes. Does the Minister accept this? Why has the government U-turned? Has it got anything to do with the recent Labour backbench rebellion? Can the Minister tell the House how many family farms and non-farming family businesses will still have to pay this death tax? Are tenant farmers included, given that the now Chief Secretary admitted at the time that 14,000 tenant farmers were missed out of their original calculations? And can the Minister also confirm whether he signed the tax and information and impact note for this U-turn before the budget? This partial U-turn does not save every family farm and family business. Indeed, for many, this U-turn is simply too late, with record farm closures under this government and the great personal toll it has taken on many families. Given the pain, the anguish, the distress, and in some cases, the sorrow that this cruel tax has caused families up and down the country, will the Minister now have the good grace to apologise on behalf of the government to farmers and family business owners?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government announced the change in December because we had continued to listen to both the representatives of family businesses and the representatives of the farming community. I note that the National Farmers Union and others have welcomed the change that has come forward, which will increase the threshold from £1 to £2.5 million. I think that is the right change to make, and I think it makes sure that we get the balance right. We're still raising £300 million from the very largest estates, and if members opposite would prefer not to raise that money and give £1 million tax cut to an estate worth £10 million, then that's their choice. That's not our choice. We think we've got to the right place on this policy, and that we strike the right balance, both raising revenue from those with the very largest estates, but also making sure that we have a higher threshold, which, if someone's in a couple, because of the changes that we announced at the budget, will mean that they will now be able to pass on up to £5 million. I didn't sign the tax information note for the change that was announced on the 23rd of December before the budget. I can confirm that in the House. And on the numbers of those who are affected, as I said in my opening remarks, the number of estates affected who claim agricultural property relief, including those also claiming BPR, is expected to halve from 375 to 185, Mr. Speaker.
Jim Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Happy New Year to you. And can I thank the Minister for his answer? I was pleased to meet NFU representatives for Dartford and for Kent in late 2024 and in January 2025, and I passed on the view to Treasury Ministers following those meetings that it was right for the government to close the inheritance tax loophole and stop the price of farmland being inflated by people purchasing that land to avoid inheritance tax, but the threshold should be set at a significantly higher level to reduce the risk of smaller family businesses being affected by these changes. Does the Minister agree that the reliefs are now fairer to family farms, but will still achieve their purpose of reducing tax sheltering and raising vital revenue for public services?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I do believe that we've got the balance right here. You know, it is worth noting that the top 4% of claims accounted for over half of the exchequer cost of business property relief, and the top 7% of claims accounted for 40% of the total exchequer cost of agricultural property relief. That's hundreds of millions of pounds, Mr. Speaker, in tax that was foregone, that will now be raised from these changes from the very largest estates. And I thank my honourable friend for his engagement on this issue over recent weeks and months.